Wow, that is super impressive and insightful. And can you tell me about the training program at Goldman Sachs?
Yeah, I was so excited to have this job at Goldman Sachs. I was so excited about having this job. As I say, I'd had 67 interviews, I'd had other job offers, and I really wanted this job in trading at Goldman Sachs. And I graduated from Cambridge in June of 95. We started in New York as the first part of the training program for I think 4 or 5 months in August. And so we all met there. And I've got to tell you, I was 23 years old. I think most of the people on that training program were MBA graduates, so they were a lot older than me. Typically, probably the average age was 30 or older. So there were a handful of us. I think there were only 4 of us who had come from undergraduate that year. And there were divisions of fixed income, JARN, which was the commodities and trading business, and equities as well. And that was the first couple of weeks was all together. And then we were in the equities training program. And it was just incredible. Everyone who stood in front of me was presenting to us, and everyone of my peers was like, wow, I'm just so fascinated by everybody's jobs. I was happy for everyone's jobs. It was just an incredible experience. And I learned so much. I mean, living in New York, I fell in love with New York again. I'd been there before, but I fell in love with it all over again. And I learned so much. And then if we were in the international parts of the division, of the equities division, we went back to London and we had some time in London. Then actually I was going to move into Japanese trading. So I also went over to Japan for a while. So I think it was pretty much like 7 or 8 months in total at that point, which is an incredible investment in the firm, obviously. So 3 or 4 months in New York, a couple of months in London, then a couple of months in Japan and Tokyo. So as a 23-year-old, it was just quite an incredible learning experience, building relationships, just understanding the different parts and the facets of that business. Again, just understanding the professionalism of those different businesses and so on. And then landing up on the Japanese trading desk back in London and starting to get to grips with how to do that job. So it was incredible.
Wow. So what about the people you work with? Do you have any funny stories or maybe the most memorable things that you would like to tell?
So a couple of things about the people I said I worked with at Goldman. First of all, the level of professionalism was incredible. I mean, some of the brightest people and some of the most motivated people that I've ever come across anywhere in the world. And I've been privileged to meet many different people. But that being said, they're not all educated people. When I first showed up on my trading desk, it was the Japanese warrant desk. I was a university graduate, and most of the other traders on that desk had never been to university. They were the archetypal Essex boy traders. And my nickname, they gave me the nickname of University Geek, because I was the person who had a degree, and they would send me off to go and get them coffees and do all these odd jobs and do photocopying and stuff. And I was their tea boy basically for about 6 to 12 months, and it was quite good. We all found it amusing. But the great thing about these guys was, first of all, their trading acumen was absolutely impeccable and second to none, and they were real humans, and so they would always share stuff. I felt as though my learning curve with those guys, I had a mentor who was sat next to, and he would mock me because I would always I'm a university graduate. I was like asking questions the whole time. He's trading and business. I was like, will you just shut up? But the people around there were extraordinary at the time. It was a very, very unique culture. There were business case studies done in Harvard about the Goldman culture at that time, and it felt like a very special place to work. And I was lucky to be there for 10 years. I worked on different trading desks. I moved from Japanese warrants onto convertible trading, then convertible trading in Europe. Back over, I went and lived in the States for a couple of years. So I lived in the States and trading US domestic convertible bonds, and the convertible bond market was basically the sexiest market that you could be involved in at that point in time. It sort of mixed equities and fixed income and options and currencies, and it was a very big exploding market. It's what spawned many of the giant hedge funds that we all read about today. Many of the people that were my peers at the time in different hedge funds. So it was a really, really exciting time. And after being in New York for a couple of years, I was actually asked to come back to London to then be co-head of the European convertible bond trading desk. So I was incredibly lucky with my career path out of nowhere. And the funny story about being offered that job was the fact that I was called. I sort of started to be a little bit feeling a little bit that my time in New York was up in terms of my job role, and I started to gently ask a couple of questions outside of my trading desk, where I might go or what might be available and stuff. And one day, the head of global convertible trading, Michael Price, who's a fantastic legend, called me into his office and he sat me down, and I thought, oh God, he's found out that I'm interested in leaving. He's going to fire me. really thought he was going to fire me. And he was talking about, the firm. And often when people are having these serious conversations, you think, oh, there's some big problem. And I was like, I'm sure this guy knows that I was interested in kind of thinking about leaving or the desk or whatever. And he basically said, would you like to go back to London and run the trading desk? And I honestly thought he was joking to begin with. I mean, I was 29 years old at this point in time. So to go and run a trading desk at Goldman Sachs before you're 30 was completely unheard of. It was completely crazy. So, but it was true. So he sent me back to New York. I had this sort of job that I couldn't really refuse because it was such a step up in my responsibilities and everything else. It was a super tough job for many different reasons, but I was so lucky for that opportunity. I went back to London and continued to do that job for another 3 or 4 years before I then decided that the time was to leave Goldman.